Today I'm behind the wheel of a brand new 2021 Ram 1500 TRX, and this is quite simply the most powerful, most extreme half-ton pickup truck ever created. Under the hood lies a 6.2-liter Hemi V8 that's also supercharged, and it is producing a monstrous 702 horsepower. Over 700 horses under the hood. Also, Ram made significant changes elsewhere, including making the TRX wider, much taller, also gave it a very unique suspension setup, and gave it performance features that you just can't find anywhere else. So, just how good is this brand new TRX? How good is it to drive on the roads? And how does it handle deep snow? Well, keep watching and find out. Now, before I start driving, let me sit here and tell you about all the changes that you'll find on this TRX, how it compares to a regular Ram 1500. So let's start out with the outside, because this TRX looks like no other Ram 1500 on the road today. It is much bigger, much wider, much taller, and a lot more bold and aggressive looking. First, if you look at the front end, you'll realize how wide it is. Maybe it doesn't show up in the video or on pictures. This TRX is extremely wide. Yes, it is very wide. The track is 6 inches wider, but the overall width is 8 inches wider than a normal Ram 1500. And you can see on both sides, the fenders just stick out. They bulge out quite a bit. And you do see some vents on the side. That's how you could tell right away, because this is a massive truck. Now, besides the additional width, this TRX is also 3 inches taller off the ground. So this TRX has close to 12 inches of ground clearance. Take a look at the hood. You have a gigantic air scoop on top, and it is functional. 50% of the air is coming through the air scoop. And on the side, you also have a few vents, and of course that badging, the 6.2-liter supercharged badging that really pops out. Now, the front headlights are full LED and also LED daytime running lights, as you see here, and LED fog lights, and they are adaptive, which means they actually turn with your steering wheel. Now, moving to the side, this is a proper looking full-size truck, right? It's high off the ground. You have huge meaty tires, and overall it's a good look. Now, with the TRX, there's only one cab configuration, and that's the crew cab, so you got plenty of space on the inside I'll get to in a little bit. But the bed length is 5 feet 7 inches long. But as you can see, that additional ground clearance really makes the TRX stand up off the ground. And those tires, 35-inch all-terrain tires specifically designed for the TRX from Goodyear. And you can opt for 18-inch B-lock wheels that you see here. And behind the wheels, you have very specially tuned Bilstein adaptive dampers, which controls the rebound and compression and basically studies the road constantly to make sure that this TRX can handle pretty much anything. And also, by the way, on the back, you see there's no leaf springs. Yes, all 4 corners are using a coil spring setup. In the back, you have dual exhaust tips, but they're no ordinary exhaust tips. They are enormous, 5-inch in diameter on each side. You do have a soft open tailgate, and also inside you can opt for a spare tire holder that just sits in the middle of your bed. Now, of course, it does take up a lot of space, but according to Ram, you can fit a 37-inch tire there, and it looks pretty darn cool. On the side, you also get some bed rails in case you do need to tie down anything back there. And also, everything is covered in a composite material, so you don't have to worry about getting a liner. Now, with the TRX, you could opt for rock rails like you see here, which is very basic, like a side step that's very tiny. It does complete the look, or you could get regular side steps. In my opinion, I would say get regular side steps, because it is quite difficult to get in and out of this TRX because of how tall it is. And these rock rails, there's not much room to step on to get in. Now, moving to second row, the seats are covered in a very nice leather, and there's also this Alcantara material that's within. It looks good and it feels good, and there's plenty of space in the second row. I'm 5 feet 10, and I have at least 8 to 10 inches of legroom and about 3 to 4 inches of headroom. The seats fold up for additional storage, and also there's hidden storage underneath on the floor, just like all other Ram 1500s. Very nice. And rear passengers get plenty of vents, cup holders, and also plenty of USB ports and a household outlet. And this TRX could be configured with Harman Kardon's 19 speaker audio system that you see here. Now moving up front, there's a lot of changes for this TRX too. First, there's a few places that displays TRX. One on the dash, one in the gauge cluster, and there's one on the armrest. It's kind of like a plaque. Very cool looking, and it has your VIN number and a few other information. Now, the steering wheel is also different. There's a flat bottom, and on top and the bottom, there's this Alcantara material I mentioned, and it actually feels pretty good. Overall, it's a big steering wheel, nice thickness, and it feels good. Now, behind it, you can see the very pronounced paddle shifters on both sides. That's also unique. You have a few buttons that control the adaptive cruise control, your phone, and also this gauge cluster. Now, this gauge cluster is pretty standard within the Ram 1500, with the exception on top, you see it says TRX. Now, this gauge cluster is pretty nice. You can scroll through many things. Now, because it's a TRX, there's many performance things that you can find. Now, within the gauge cluster, you get a whole bunch of information, the usual stuff, speedometer, TPMS, your settings. But because this is a TRX, you do get one for off-road, which will tell you what's going on with your 4x4 setup and also your pitch, your roll. Now, of course, there is a setting for performance because this is TRX. So you can see your 0 to 60 time, 0 to 100 time, other things like your braking distance, your current G's, right? And also your laps. I mean, pretty much anything you want to keep track of. Now, moving to the giant infotainment system, this is a 12.3 inch that is mounted vertically, and it's a nice setup. You get all the usual stuff like climate controls, you get heated everything, heated seats, heated steering wheel, stuff like that. Also, fancy camera system, a 360 camera view system so that you can see all around your TRX, the front, the back, the sides. Really, really nice. Now, because it's a TRX, of course, there's an app for that, the TRX app. Now, it does have a few things. Number one, you get a lot of driving modes. This is very specific to the TRX. You could leave it in auto, but there's also snow, tow, sport, Baja rock, mud and sand, and custom. And basically every single one will tweak certain things like your transmission, your paddle shifters, your stability control, also your suspension and steering. So it just depends on your situation. And in a little bit, I'm going to test out the snow mode to see just how good this TRX is. Now, besides drive modes, you could go into the performance page. And the performance page has a lot of stuff. Your vehicle dynamics, you know, how much power your engine is putting out right now, your G-force, your gauges, timers, dashboard for pretty much anything that you want to see, right? It's very, very comprehensive, and quite simply, it's cool. And also, you have some race options. Yes, inside this half-ton pickup truck, you do have launch control. There's a dedicated button, but there's a menu item you could go to, and you can specify at what RPM you want to launch your TRX. You want to launch it at 3,400 RPM, you can. If you want to lower a little bit, you can. You can also adjust the shift light, your race cool down timer. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. That's why I said at the beginning, there's a ton of performance features just unseen in any other half-ton pickup truck. Now, as for the driving modes I talked about, there are dedicated buttons that's on the dash. And underneath that, you can control your 4x4 setup. This TRX is full-time 4x4. So you could set it in auto, or you could go 4-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive low, and there's a dedicated button to lock your rear differential. And of course, that launch control button is there too. Now, normally in a Ram 1500, that place would be where the shifter knob is. But inside this TRX, you don't get that. You get a traditional shifter, which is really nice, and you can manually shift with this as well. Now, because this is here, the center console is redesigned. In a Ram 1500, the center console actually moves forward and backwards. This is fixed, but still, you get a lot of things. Cup holders, wireless charger, 4 USB ports, the usual stuff. Also within this TRX, you get a ton, 6 Aux switches. So in case you want to load up your TRX with accessories, off-road lights and stuff like that, you can simply hook it up here. Really, really nice. Inside a giant armrest, you get another USB port, a 12V outlet, and a bunch of space to put whatever you want. Also, you get memory seats. Your mirrors fold, which is really nice because I went through a car wash and I had to fold the mirrors literally because this TRX was just way, way too wide. Also, you can opt for a digital rearview mirror, which is nice if you're towing or there's someone in the back or something that's blocking your view, right? That comes in handy. You have home link buttons on top, and you can opt for a gigantic panoramic sunroof on top that goes all the way to the back. Very, very, very nice. All right, I'm on the road. Let's see how good this TRX is, and let's see if it can handle some deep snow. First thing I want to talk about is just how big this TRX is. It's very, very, very big and very tall. Now, it's hard enough to get inside a full-size pickup truck unless you're like 6'4" or above, or really, really long legs. And this TRX is even taller. It's 3 inches taller than a normal Ram 1500, and it doesn't have the air suspension that you can find in a normal Ram 1500, so you could lower it. You don't get that option, so it is actually quite difficult to get inside, especially with these rock rails. That's why I recommend you opt for some side steps. Otherwise, man, it's really, really difficult to get in, especially for people on the shorter side, or your kids or your spouse, whoever. And once you get inside and you start driving, you realize just how elevated you are, right? Which is really nice because you got a really, really commanding view of the road. There are some SUVs on the road right in front of me. They're mid-size SUVs, and I feel like they're like sedans. That's how tall I am. And also, because of how wide this TRX is, I have to make sure, I have to pay real close attention that I'm not swerving out of the lane, because I feel like I'm at the edge on both sides. This TRX, like I mentioned, is 8 inches wider than a normal Ram 1500, which is wide already. So I don't know, like parking spots, you know, lanes are quite narrow sometimes within the city. Yeah, you're gonna have a fun time driving this TRX around. Now, since I reviewed many Ram 1500s before, I'm used to this elegant and luxurious cabin and seats and everything. It is really nice, and for those of you guys that haven't sat in this brand new Ram 1500 before, you'll be shocked how nice it is in here. The build quality, the feel, the look, the utility, the comfort, I mean, everything in here is top notch. It rivals like luxury cars. This is so good, in fact, that I would argue it's even better than a brand new redesigned 2021 Ford F-150. Whoa! Yeah, so this is definitely a fast truck, as you would expect, with a 702 horsepower engine under the hood. So right there, when I just mashed the gas, right, I got pushed back in my seat, the rear end went down a little bit, and I accelerate up to 60 miles per hour really, really, really quickly. You'll definitely notice the supercharger whine, for good or for bad. Some of you guys will enjoy it. You hear that whine constantly, high pitched, especially when you're going full throttle. But in addition, you have very, very nice throaty exhaust that's not too obnoxious and not too loud. It's just the right tone, in my opinion. Anytime you floor it or under load, you could hear it, but it's not too much. So if you're driving this daily, you know, it won't bother you. If you're on the highway, if you're towing, right, it's not going to be very obnoxious, and that is really good. So I love the exhaust. Of course, this is a V8. The biggest complaint about the Raptor is it doesn't sound like a V8 because it doesn't have a V8, and Ford recently, you know, showcased their 2021 Raptor, which looks nice and all, but they didn't give any details about the engine. So is a V8 coming back? Is it going to compete with this 700 horsepower engine? We don't know. We just don't know, but I will tell you that this V8 sound is lovely. The supercharger whine is very unique, and this TRX is extremely fast. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Yeah, that's pretty darn quick. Now, as for the steering wheel is fantastic, among the best I've ever tested. The steering wheel feels really good. I love the Alcantara material on the top and the bottom. The heated elements heats up really fast. I've tested it many times. Nice and warm all around, really nice. And overall, this looks good too. A modern, big steering wheel that you come to expect in a big, sporty truck like this. Now, I wish the steering was more precise because there is quite a bit of steering play. So you guys could see on camera probably, right? A lot of play in the steering wheel, but there is a good heaviness to it. So that is nice, but I wish it was a little bit more precise, but that may be hard with the soft suspension. Now, if you do go into, say, sport mode, your steering does change. It really depends. You know, if you go in tow mode, you know, snow mode, I mean, a lot of things get adjusted. Now, what about the ride? The ride is actually really nice, really nice. Because this TRX uses coil spring setup all around, you know, you don't get that bed rattle, the bed shake as much in this TRX as, say, all the other, you know, full-size pickup trucks. But what makes this TRX even better is the specially tuned and designed Bilstein dampers that adjust to the road. And right now, I would say it's doing a pretty good job. You know, keep in mind, the tires are very aggressive. They're considered all-season tires, but they really look like mud tires. The thread is very, very deep and big. So normally, you know, it would make the ride a little bit harsher, but I think because of the Bilstein shocks, the ride is actually quite comfortable. This probably, I would say, versus the limited Ram 1500 I tested with the air suspension, that comes in a little bit softer. But outside of that, this is among the most comfortable trucks I have ever tested. Now, what also makes this TRX very comfortable are these seats. Man, these seats are beautiful. Not only do they look great, you know, with the design, with the leather and the Alcantara, right? But they feel good, they smell good, and they're very, very comfortable. Very comfortable. You know, I could sit on this driver's seat for hours and not get a stiff back or butt. I mean, it really is quite nice. It's not aggressive, yet I'm not sliding around on it, right? It's just done right. And of course, because this is a full-size truck, you get so much space. I already showed you how much space I had in the rear behind my driving position, but up here too. You know, plenty of space overall, plenty of headroom, shoulder room, hip room. You could, of course, adjust the steering wheel. You could also adjust the pedals if you wanted to. If you want to move them in and out, and of course, the seats are powered. You could adjust it however you want, but there's plenty of space everywhere inside this TRX. Now, as I came to a stop, surprisingly, I don't feel any nosedive, which is a good thing. A lot of trucks or big SUVs I test, the brakes are, they come in sudden, so the suspension, since it's a little bit softer, you would feel a dive. I don't feel it in this. You know, it feels like a normal car coming to a stop. The pedal, I would say, is just a tad mushier than, say, a regular cars, but still overall pretty good. And when you come to a stop, no surprises. So brakes are good too. I mentioned about the quality of the dash. I mean, honestly, everywhere is covered in soft leather or some kind of soft material. That's why I love this interior. I mean, everywhere you feel, you know, is nice. Everywhere. There's no cheap places. All right, so as you may have noticed, there's snow everywhere and it's still snowing. It's the middle of winter, right? But I want to see how good this TRX is in the snow. So I'm just gonna find some random parking lots and just, you know what, test out this four-wheel drive setup. And also there's a locking differential if I get stuck. I don't think I will. And just test out things overall. Now, one thing I didn't talk about is visibility, and overall it's pretty good, with the exception of the front, hindered a little bit. Side is really good. You got really big mirrors that auto fold too. Rear visibility good. You know, the rear windows, blind spot is also good. Now the front isn't bad, except the hood is so tall. It's really tall, and it does hinder the front visibility slightly, especially if there's like a small kid in front of me. I would not be able to see them at all because of how tall the hood is. There's no way I would be able to see them. The good thing is there's a front camera system, so I could turn that on, but you got to be careful because it's really hard to see past your hood unless you're sitting like all the way up here. Even like that, it's still hard to see. Remember I said how the interior, the cabin is as luxurious as a luxury car? Well, Same goes with cabin noise because it's very, very, very quiet. You could tell that Ram spent a ton of time putting a lot of insulation everywhere because with the exception of the supercharger whine, which you do hear, and exhaust, which you do hear, these are two things you do definitely want to hear. But from the outside, no wind noise at all. I don't hear the cars passing by, nothing. It is very, very well insulated. In fact, I don't even hear the road noise. That's how good it is. I'm simply in love with this TRX. This is about as good as it gets when it comes to a half-ton full-size pickup truck. I mean, honestly, I love this TRX, and I think it's the best truck you could buy today. So next up, let me talk about pricing and summarize the good and bad to this brand new TRX so you could decide if this is a truck for you. As for pricing, the 2021 Ram 1500 TRX starts around $72,000. The special launch edition package, which is limited to only 702 units, is an additional $12,150. This includes many options such as the B-lock wheels, 19 speaker sound system, panoramic sunroof, heads-up display, carbon fiber inserts, TRX graphics, flat bottom steering wheel, and a whole lot more. This package also tacks on the level 2 equipment group, which adds on things like blind spot monitoring, memory seats, heated steering wheel and seats, parking sensors, leather interior, surround view camera, wireless charging, and a whole bunch of other things. This package is additional $7,920. There are a few other packages outside of these two that you could choose from, but with the launch edition package and the level 2 equipment group package, the grand total comes out to be slightly over $92,000. To conclude, the 2021 Ram 1500 TRX is without a doubt the most powerful and the most extreme half-ton pickup truck ever created. The bold and aggressive exterior sets it apart from the rest of the Ram lineup. The increased width, height, ground clearance, special Bilstein suspension, and the numerous driving modes make the TRX able to tackle just about anything from desert racing to mountain climbing to doing parking lot donuts in the snow. And let's not forget about the launch mode, which can propel the TRX 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. The monstrous 702 horsepower engine is beyond ludicrous, and the power and exhaust note is simply mesmerizing. The TRX interior is luxury-like and miles ahead of the competition. The TRX is a blast to drive anywhere and is calm and civil around town when you need it to. Now, as for the bad, the TRX is an enormous truck, which means it's hard to park literally anywhere and can't make it through most drive-thrus. The TRX height also makes it very hard to get in and out of. The TRX is thirsty, very, very thirsty in fact, and the high price tag keeps it out of most people's driveway. Overall, I'm giving the 2021 Ram 1500 TRX a score of 117. To see where it ranks among other trucks, check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching, hit the like and subscribe to the channel, and check out these other videos.